This program was made possible by a grant from the Kirkpatrick Foundation.
Creativity.
Creativity.
Here's the proposal. Do you think you could teach a bunch of old, well, some not as old as others, scientists and write a piece to be performed by a string quartet?
In the lab, as we're creating something, as we're testing a hypothesis, we can see things taking shape as we go. This was the first thing I've been involved in where, as we've been creating, there's been nothing to see. The whole creative process was completely mental until we got to the end, and then boom, suddenly there it was.
When you get forced to come up with something, somehow that kind of frees you a bit.
It is intimidating. There's always an unknown, and so the gamble is there, and so I always have anticipatory nerves.
Well, you know what it sounds like in your head, and I certainly played what I could on the piano. I mean, I don't have four hands, and I certainly don't sound like my iPhone keyboard doesn't sound like a string quartet.
A couple of days you wondered whether you were going to come up with anything. You know, that you were going to be the one of the seven that, you know, laid an egg.
Yeah, just the beginning part up until everyone has a rest. It's been building and building and building, and tonight was the finale. The fact that it was in 1 week and it was so intense was what it needed to be. There's something about working under the clock. Sometimes when you're not necessarily feeling inspired, you know you got to push through that and you got to get something on paper.
To go through the intensity of the week and not know what it's going to be like, even an hour before, 30 minutes before starting showtime, you just don't know what's going to happen.
Creativity.
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 This is who we are.
This is who we are.
Creativity is about solutions.
It's about answers.
Creativity is more than the arts.
More than a process.
Creativity is about action.
It's about action.
Creativity is about action. Creativity is the state of mind.
Oklahoma is the state of creativity.
Well, thanks to everybody for coming today. We'll get started now. I appreciate your willingness to come with an air of mystery still about this. And I'm going to start with an introduction of our guest today, Jerod Tate. Jerod is a Chickasaw Indian. His parents were faculty members at the University of Oklahoma in the music area. And he himself has gone on to a distinguished career in composing classical music. The challenge I made to Jerod was, do you think you could teach a bunch of old, well, some not as old as others, scientists and write a piece to be performed by a string quartet? And he said, I don't know. Sounds like fun. So that's the genesis of it. I was pleased that people immediately found it intriguing. I mean, I think their degrees of enthusiasm were, people spread across different degrees of enthusiasm, but everyone was intrigued by it. And I think that was apparent right from the get-go.
When the proposal was pitched, I guess it's been fun to take risks sometimes, and I think you learn something about yourself, and you can surprise yourself many ways, and so I thought, why not?
Teaching composition is a very, very cool thing because it's all about the student. It doesn't matter the style or technique or their idea. If they're very honest about it, it always comes out very strongly. And I see that as a very consistent thing throughout any kind of a field.
When I first time heard that we may be given an opportunity to write music, it was almost disbelief. I don't know, that is something that I will be engaged in doing. So but it, at the same time, it sounds extremely exciting and challenging, though. I'm Jerod Tate. I'm doing research mainly in Alzheimer's disease and in some other area, but study Alzheimer's disease and develop possible therapy for it is the main thrust of our lab. I believe that as one getting older, you have to not only keep yourself physically fit, but you also have to challenge yourself mentally to keep yourself mentally fit, and you never should lose interest of meeting the challenges. So these were the thoughts, and I thought maybe I would take few weeks of doing this.
At the beginning, when we presented this idea to all the scientists, they had a very, very reserved reaction. There's no doubt about it. They were studying what was happening and critically evaluating and everything, and so there was a bit of a distance. And so it didn't start with a big group hug. It started out with a lot of thinking and evaluating. And so within maybe half an hour or so and talking about it, that's when Dr. Prescott said, okay, so who's in? So I was kind of like, and I was thinking, wow, maybe we should give them the evening to think about it, But, we just kind of had to get to the point. And fortunately, there was like a good crowd that volunteered.
I'm absolutely in. At 100%, I've already got my idea, story. I'm there. I've jumped off the plank already. So
sounds good.
I'm certainly in as well. It's that being terrified and being thrilled at the same time. But I'm all in, and I see this as just such a unique, great opportunity.
I really see it as an opportunity too. I think my science will be reinvigorated by it as well. I really do. I was just remarking the other day, that I need something. I need a spark. I need a spark to get back into thinking more creatively, in my work. And this is absolutely going to do it. I have no doubt.
I was pumped. I was ready to go. I was scared, wondering if I had what it took to be able to do it, because I had never, although I had oral skills in musical theory in college and throughout, it was not the same as embarking on a composition. It sounded impossible, but I was thrilled to give it a shot. I was very excited. I'm Courtney Gray McGuire, and I'm an assistant member here at OMRF, and my work focuses on genetic studies of inflammatory disorders. That includes systemic lupus erythematosus, sarcoidosis. I also do work in colon cancer. I went to Oklahoma City University, which is, a huge performing arts school, and sort of got the bug again, and decided to become a vocal performance major, and did that for 2 years while I was there. Got the opportunity to perform, but then realized that the lifestyle that I was looking for was not conducive to being a professional performer. Plus, I missed the academic pursuits. I had originally gone to college as a biology major, and so returned to what my original intentions were.
Sounds good. And then how, in the MAD data, did you, when you're working on? Okay, so then you're working on that slide before that. I'm Tim Griffin. I'm an assistant member in the Free Radical Biology and Aging program. And my lab studies osteoarthritis and studies the causes of osteoarthritis and how obesity is a risk factor for osteoarthritis, and how changes in the body's metabolism can lead to that disease. In terms of those papers, they have any data. But in terms of very high level of musical experience, that wasn't the case. It was quite low. I had played clarinet from probably 4th grade through 8th grade, and then 1 year in high school, and then that was about it. And so it's been packed away in its case, and it hasn't been out much since then. So in terms of musical background, I guess I could read, I don't know if I could tell you what note, if it was an A or a B or a C, if I saw it on the scale, but I could at least, I got the sense of it. I knew I could get back into it. I could read the rhythms and what, was it a whole note, half note, things like that.
So you start with 4 counts, 2 counts, 1, a half a count, a quarter of a count. Okay, so let's look in our books.
Once we had that retreat, and you really saw, okay, this is how it's going to go, then I think it really started coming to realize that this is real, that we're actually going to have to do this. It was wow process from that day on, I would say, from knowing that in a week, basically, it's going to be performed. So you better bring it, better have something down there for them to perform.
Right.
Whereas this one,
I felt like I had to come into that first one-on-one session with something on paper. Had I not, I think it would have gone much differently. But because I came in with something on paper, I was able to sit down with Jerod and say, okay, this is what's in my mind, this is the idea I'm trying to get across, and I could play him a bit of what I had written and have him sort of affirm what I was doing. And then I came in with a list of questions too. All right, so if I want this to have a little brighter feel, I would need to pop it up to the viola.
probably.
This part.
Yes.
This sounds a bit jazzy.
Okay. No job.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that's all right. That's all right.
So maybe I need to pop that up to the viola.
Sure.
And this I can't tell when I'm doing it on my keyboard on the computer, so. Yeah, that's nicer. Yeah.
Within one day, things started to relax a bit. And that's where they lie. Is that okay?
Yeah.
That's what you want? Okay. Now, the thing that's cool about this is that you've got the viola above the violin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Okay, you wanted that. Okay.
Teaching
Great. Individual people composition is definitely a very unique, isolated experience with each person. They do have very specific personalities. Okay. Very different needs,
Yeah,
different information. It's completely unique for every person. Right? Yeah. Viola and cello.
Yeah.
That's the next one. And then that's the next one. And then but by the very first lesson, people came in with full ideas penciled out on 4 stabs, and it just blew my mind. I mean, it was really quick. So the passion, they engaged the passion very quickly, and they just got to work, which is typical of a researcher. If they get an idea, boom, they're on it, and they do all the research that's necessary and preparation that's necessary. So they really applied themselves as scientists to it once they had that critical, I guess, resonant area that they needed. You know, they needed that focus. So. And then after the first ideas are presented, then we start talking about it, and it starts taking better shape and everything.
I have thought that this shouldn't be too loud because it's shouldn't be dominating or so. So yeah, I have some kind of P all the way through and end up in the P side. Okay. Right. So here again, it's like the second movement. It's a start of the real thing. Right. You want them to hear. So I thought this would be MF. I've always thought composing music was something that you have idea of a tune and come out of somewhere. And then you run to the paper and they jot it down. And if you're talented, you have a lot of these coming and you wrote them down and it's more or less flow out of you and so on. And but the whole process is so thought demanding that was greatly exceed my expectation.
Within 3 lessons is really when things had to be almost at their completion because we're wrapping up in the last couple lessons. So, I mean, it's just unbelievably fast. But not only were musical ideas unraveling so quickly, but their personalities did.
I thought it's intended to be a little bit faster. Yeah,
Works for me. It's great. It's a nice pace.
Yeah. Okay.
That's 132.
132.
Wonderful.
It was a lot of thinking, a tremendous amount of thinking. So it's such a emotional commitment. It's almost like you're doing a full project in your lab. So that part, the drive to do something creative, the commitment to excel in it, are almost identical.
So we're done with the whole composition process, and I see them unravel as entire people, but now it's like, oh wait, we're not done yet. So now their music actually hits the air, and it becomes waves in the air, and we're listening to. And another level, they meet the string quartet. They're nervous. They're anticipating.
I thought, well, here it is. It's on paper. The notes made sense to me, and I was just supposed to see how it goes. And I didn't really have a sense about how complex it could be or would be, or didn't really appreciate the fact that they're going to be sight reading this, and essentially, maybe we'll run through the piece 2 or 3 times before they actually have to play it for the performance. So the first part of it's really more kind of driving faster, get your blood pumping, get the pulse up kind of piece, and the second part with all the pizzicato, again, kind of going on that pulse theme with that, and the third is one just to have fun with. So. I don't think I really appreciated that type of challenge that we were asking the musicians to go through in the process.
Then the music starts, and instantly they're critically evaluating, oh, no, this is what I want. And so they start to get engaged into the process of hearing their music. And it was so cool to see them step up to that so quickly and critically evaluate in an artistic way. That's a positive criticism that happens when you're doing that. And so they listen to the first take, they take notes, and they go up to the quartet and say, well, measure so-and-so, this is what I want. I mean, it was incredible how quickly they picked that up.
Back to the original, yeah. Dun, 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 dun,
dun. Maybe not quite that deep, but... I was a nervous wreck going into hearing it played for the first time, and particularly because my piece was my imaginary friends. I mean, these characters in my head were very personal.
There you go.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
it.
That's it right there. Having that sort of exposed to the world and not knowing what it was going to sound like. I knew what it was like in my head, and I'd seen it on paper, but having a string quartet get a hold of it and hearing it all put together was just a very different experience.
Oh, well, that's a lot fast. Really? Is it that fast?
Yeah, that happens often. Okay. Yeah, sometimes we'll predict tempos.
It's like giving birth. It's amazing.
It was like, they're alive. I felt like I was giving birth, to these characters in my head, and they were coming alive just as I had intended. And so it was a very powerful experience.
Right.
Yeah.
Now try it with an A flat. Do the same thing. By that last rehearsal, just before the concert, the pieces were really coming together. The composers had made their final edits and given them to the quartet, and then everybody walks in. It's unbeatable. It's just that how it all just builds up, and then you're at this peak of this mountain, and you can just see this unbelievable landscape before you. It is intimidating. There's always an unknown, and so the gamble is there, and so I always have anticipatory nerves.
While you know what it sounds like in your head, and I certainly played what I could on the piano, I mean, I don't have 4 hands, and I certainly don't sound like my iPhone keyboard doesn't sound like a string quartet.
Yeah, just that beginning part up until everyone has the rest. It's been building and building and building, and tonight was the finale. The fact that it was in 1 week and it was so intense was what it needed to be. There's something about working under the clock. Sometimes when you're not necessarily feeling inspired, you got to push through that, and you got to get something on paper.
I will admit, I am always nervous, because it's no different than me going in and improvising lessons. I am nervous about it because, I mean, there's a chance of failure. It's just that simple, And it is no different than a sports game. I mean, you never know who's really going to win or by how far. I mean, it's like no matter how good the team is, there's always that element of surprise. So there is definitely a life risk in a project like this.
The thing that stuck with me most is that having think through how to express yourself in music. When I hear a piece of music now, it's not the same as what I hear it before. I thought if I were going to write a piece of music, as a scientist, I will probably have more to say about what the music should be than a lot of composers writing it, because they will be writing from outside and I will be writing from inside. So that may be a nice way of contributing to some creative products.
I think creativity is a bit like genius, that it requires about like 1% of brilliance of an idea and inspiration, but the rest of it's just hard work. And I really think creativity is the same way, in letting that creative idea foster and grow. But then it was hard work. Then it was just a matter of sitting down, with a piano, with the notes and the staff paper, and just seeing what works. And it's exactly the same way with science.
For me, the biggest thing was discovering about the process and about, while we were kind of being experimented on to see how we would do, I think just the whole idea of we troubleshoot every day. We have to solve problems every day. We have to come up with creative solutions to problems. And this was kind of a problem initially. Luckily, it had a good outcome.
This is a very very wonderful, complete feeling that I get when I teach composing to people, because you literally start with absolutely nothing. And we ended with an entirely produced performance. And just as every minute that goes by during the performance, I savor as much as I can because it's so short by comparison to the process in general.
I think there's probably 100 things you do in life where you say, wow, that was a great experience, we should keep doing this. Hopefully we will.
There's the formal definition of creating something, and then there's adding special meaning to it when it's something that you're creating yourself. And that's really what this week was about for me.
To be in the company of these amazingly brilliant composers and scientists was just absolutely breathtaking.
I think that if you made it longer, we could have done more. We would have maybe made some changes, but it wouldn't have been the same feeling. So I think that intensity, that uncertainty, that sense of being on the edge was what it needed, and it really came off tonight.
I think that's the great lesson here. Not that they wrote these beautiful pieces of music, which is extraordinary. Not that it was scientists who did it, which is interesting. But the fact that they had the courage to follow this idea, to follow that creative impulse and to do something unusual that turned out to be beautiful and extraordinary.
This program was made possible by a grant from the Kirkpatrick Foundation.
For a DVD copy of this program that also includes the entire concert, please call 800-879-6382 or send a check or money order for $22.95 to the OETA Foundation, Post Office Box 14190, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma 73113.